Part 28. A Middle School Cartoonist. Author, Mao Do Sde Mao. Chapter 271. Although many readers complained about the slow plot when Ushio and Toro was serialized before, after seeing the recent content, many people realized that the slow plot was just a prelude to the final battle. In the new episode, although the white-faced man constantly taunted and provoked Xiao Chao and Ahu who were wearing armor, he was indeed quite afraid of the beast's spear. As Ahu said in the comics, if the white-faced man was not afraid of the beast's spear, why didn't he look at Xiao Chao and Ahu who were hostile to him with the eyes of a superior looking down on ants? Because of the fear of the beast's spear, the white-faced man, who was quite strong before, is now suppressed by Xiao Chao and Ahu, and has completely lost the strong arrogance before. If the battle continues as it is now, the white-faced one will be destroyed. Although many readers feel that the outcome is settled here, they are not satisfied. As a powerful monster, how can he be killed in one blow just because of the sudden explosion of the protagonist's halo? If the Phoenix Academy really dares to draw such a bloody plot. Oh my! Especially this kind of ending that relies on the protagonist's invincible and immortal halo. Nima. The countless monsters before, the desperate suicide attacks, are not as good as the explosion of Chao and Tiger. This is a pitfall. Speaking of which, the monsters who died before, could not be resurrected by the energy of the white-faced one after killing him. According to the previous situation where the intrusive characters were seriously injured but not dead, after the end of this battle, it is likely to be a common and boring happy ending. However, in the final battle, the white-faced one showed the charm of a villain behind the scenes, evil and madness. Even though he was born in the turbid air of heaven and earth, the moment he was born, the white-faced one also felt the beauty of this world. However, it is precisely because the world is beautiful that the white-faced one is unwilling to accept it and wants to destroy this world. Hatred without any reason, dislike without any reason, just wanting to kill, destroy and destroy, this is the so-called evil, and thinking that cannot be measured by common sense, words and deeds that violate the world or the normal cognition of human beings, this is the so-called madness. Since you can judge my actions from the way I stare at the beast's spear, then I don't want these eyes. The white-faced one, who was completely in a state of madness, was exposed by Ahu that he was afraid of the beast's spear, and because he was stabbed by Xiao Chao with the beast's spear one after another, he was ashamed and angry, and did something that surprised the readers. The white-faced one blinded his own eyes with his own claws. In this way, I will no longer be afraid of the beast's spears, and no longer be afraid of you, ha 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 ha. Since it is because of these eyes that I feel afraid, then I will destroy these eyes. Since both humans and monsters hate me, then I will destroy all humans and monsters. Since this world hates me, then I will destroy this world. Now the white-faced one is just a crazy monster, nothing more. The white-faced one used the means of self-mutilation, at the cost of his eyes, to start the frenzy state. Although his combat power did not increase significantly, this also made Xiao Chao and Ahu's previous tactics of judging the white-faced one's actions through his eyes meaningless. Instead, the white-faced one gradually turned the disadvantage around with the intuition of the monster itself, causing the protagonist duo, who had previously had the upper hand, to fall into a disadvantage again. Facing the blinded crazy white-faced man, Xiao Chao and Ahu's several attacks did not achieve much effect. Instead, the white-faced man took the opportunity to hit them again. They finally found a tactic to restrain the white-faced man, but now it has completely lost its meaning because of the white-faced man's crazy behavior. This sudden plot twist made many readers start to worry, and they also understood that this battle has come to an end. Because that guy's body was born because of me, Xiao Chao. The wounded Ahu proposed a plan to Xiao Chao to destroy the white-faced one, hide the beast's spear in my body, so that the white-faced one can't find the beast's spear by feeling. This is our only chance to win. But Ahu, the beast's spear. Although Ahu's idea was not wrong, as long as the beast's spear was inserted into his body, the white-faced one could indeed not feel the existence of the beast's spear. If a surprise attack was launched, the white-faced one could be successfully destroyed, because the beast's spear is a weapon that can destroy all monsters. It will not judge whether to kill or not based on the good or bad of the monster. This means that Ahu, who hides the breath of the beast's spear with his body, will definitely die in the next battle. So Xiao Chao hesitated about Ahu's proposal. The white-faced one attacked Chao and Hu again with the perception of the beast's spear. At the critical moment, Ahu grabbed the beast's spear in Xiaocao's hand and stabbed the beast's spear into his body from behind, blocking the perception of the white-faced one, forcing the white-faced one to stop with a puzzled look on his face. Ahu, Xiao Chao burst into tears and shouted loudly at Ahu's behavior. No time to hesitate, Xiao Chao. Go ahead. Ahu endured the severe pain, opened his bloody mouth, smiled grimly, and rushed towards the confused white-faced man with Xiao Chao. In the previous battle, in order to maximize the power of the beast's spear, Xiao Chao has lifted the seals on the monsters on the beast's spear, so now the beast's spear's lethality to all monsters has risen to the maximum level, and similarly, because the price of the beast's spear to maximize the monster killing is that the user's soul is devoured and turned into a monster like Ahu. So, this will be the last time Xiao Chao uses the beast's spear. Xiao Chao overuses the beast's spear and loses his human soul, and will become a monster like Ahu, and Ahu, who uses his body to hide the breath of the beast's spear, will have to bear the double damage of the white-faced man and the beast's spear when the beast's spear attacks the white-faced man. The result is naturally self-evident. This is the price of destroying the white-faced man. When Yoshida saw this result, he said it was quite unacceptable. However, what is even more excessive is that when Yoshida got the comic manuscript, he found that Takahashi Makoto had modified the length of the comic manuscript and did not release this tragic result, but chose to delay it to the next issue. So this time the comic stops at the moment when the white-faced man and Chao and Tiger collide. Does this mean that the next chapter will be about a heartbreaking multiple combo and the end of the yokai era? Yoshida put down the sample magazine in his hand, and recalled the arrogant remarks made by Makoto Takahashi before, with a complicated expression on his face. Does this mean that this is Makoto's last comic in Shonen Jump? Makoto Takahashi said before that in order to support the editor-in-chief, he would serialize the comic of the social era in the monthly magazine, but, it seems that Yoshida seems to have misunderstood something. Makoto Takahashi never said that he would stop wantonly doing anything in Shonen Jump. Verse skill charging. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 272. Although Yoshida still doesn't know why Makoto Takahashi deliberately delayed the ending of Ushio and Tora where Ushio and Tiger killed the white-faced man to the next episode, it doesn't matter now, because the new issue of Shonen Jump has been released, and it tells the story of how the white-faced man was killed from the beginning. According to the development process of many comics now, the more critical the moment, the more the cartoonist will deliberately delay the time. Obviously, they know that readers want to know the next development content, but the content of the comic development is to delay and procrastinate in various ways. For example, at a critical moment, the protagonist will recall a certain event in the past and perform memory killing that can enhance the ability. For example, the big villain behind the scenes will recall the root cause of the previous rebellion against the rebellious protagonist at a critical moment, and leave a memory that can be whitewashed to the reader a second before being killed, and activate the skill of reading memory killing and writing death flag. By the way, is this considered a differential treatment of status in comics? When performing memory killing, the protagonists are basically like taking drugs, transforming or opening the gene lock, and are completely in a reverse spiral state with explosive combat power, while the villains are like being cursed, with eternal blood loss or brain dead halo opening at the same time, and the original advantage is reversed in an instant, not only achieving the glory of the protagonist's savior, but also becoming a stigma for thousands of years. So for the comics published in this issue, the white-faced man is defeated at the beginning, which is also extremely unexpected for the readers. Ushio and Tiger does not delay the plot at all, and it is a hot fight with fists and flesh. Xiao Chao tears off the monster seal rope on the beast's spear and fully exerts the power of the beast's spear. In order to hide the breath of the beast's spear, Ahu has been hiding the beast's spear in his body. Just seeing this development, many readers know that the time to fight has come. There is no gorgeous scene, no deliberately exaggerated atmosphere. Xiao Chao and Ahu launched a desperate attack, and hit the white-faced man without any surprise. The white-faced one was hit, and the effect was outstanding. The white-faced one lost all his physical strength and could not fight. The white-faced one fell. How is it possible? As long as you who hate me exist in this world for one day, I am immortal and invincible. The white-faced one, whose body was almost cut in half by the beast's spear, was unwilling to die like this. At the moment of death, he was still struggling hard. So Shag-Uksha, hate me. As long as you who have become immortal hate me for one day, I will not perish. Shag-Uksha, who turned into Ahu, naturally has a reason to hate the white-faced one. Because as the container of the birth of the white-faced one, Shag-Uksha, who obtained the immortal attribute, recalled everything that happened before after his memory was restored, including the death of the siblings and his self-blame. Many readers are a little worried when they see this. After all, the entanglement and relationship between Ahu and the white-faced one are too complicated. But from the information revealed by the white-faced one, as long as Ahu has a little resentment towards the white-faced one, the white-faced one will not die and will be resurrected again. Even though he has suffered such a fatal injury now. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but I don't hate you anymore. Although Ahu said this, in the comics, he kept wreaking havoc on the white-faced one, smashing the white-faced one's body, and even smashing the white-faced one's proud tail. Because hatred will not produce any results, you are really pitiful, white-faced one. Ahu no longer hates the white-faced one, so the white-faced one also lost the ability to revive and disappeared on the sea. But the comics did not end there. Many readers know that the next part is the real key content, because in order to cooperate with Xiao Chao to kill the white-faced one, Ahu has been using the body of a monster to carry the beast's spear. It looks like, I am almost done. Ahu stood beside Xiao Chao, but his body began to disappear. He was severely injured by the white-faced one before, and later he had the ability to kill monsters with the beast's spear. No matter how powerful Ahu is, he is just a monster after all. As an existence that can eliminate all monsters, it is natural that the beast's spear can give the white-faced one fatal damage. However, although Ahu, who used his body to hide the breath of the beast's spear, was the protagonist, he was still a monster in essence. Therefore, when the white-faced man was severely injured, Ahu did not escape the persecution of the beast's spear. I am also going to become a beast, mutual. Because of the excessive use of the power of the beast's spear, the price Xiao Chao paid was naturally his own soul. After losing his soul, he would naturally become a beast like Ahu. Although Xiao Chao's tone was still full of ridicule as usual when he spoke, Xiao Chao couldn't help crying for Ahu who was about to die. Haha, don't laugh to death, but I can't cry. Ahu did not comfort Xiao Chao who was crying, but used the previous mode of getting along with each other to mock Xiao Chao for the last time. A guy like you can't become mine. Damn it. Ahu, you can't die yet, aren't you going to eat me, Ahu? I've eaten. Ahu turned into a little starlight and dissipated in the sky, and I'm very full. Hee, as expected, I will also become a beast. After Ahu disappeared, Xiao Chao Zhen began to bleed heavily. Because of excessive use of the beast's spear, after losing his soul, his body began to gradually transform into a beast. But it doesn't matter, because I will become Ahu. The ending turned out to be like this. Ahu died, Xiao Chao turned into a beast. Damn, how crazy is Feng Guangai Yuan? It shouldn't end like this, right? Maybe there will be a turnaround in the next chapter. Looking at Xiao Chao, who began to transform into a beast at the end of the comic, many readers' suppressed emotions finally found a vent and began to explode. Of course, most of the readers were only excited for a while, because at the end of this chapter, there was no ending prompt, which means that the content of the next chapter may have a turnaround called miracle. Of course, at this time, the readers didn't know that there was a turnaround in the content of the final chapter of Yuo and Tiger, but there were more brutal contents. This is probably the so-called the greater the expectation, the greater the disappointment. Ah, Makoto. What are you doing? Yoshida came to the door of Takahashi Makoto's house, but unexpectedly saw all the assistants lying on the ground panting, while Takahashi Makoto stood in front of everyone with disdain, scolding loudly. Takahashi Makoto's face looked disappointed, which made Yoshida very confused. In this situation, did you go to defeat any monsters just now? My familiar cat, are you here? Seeing Yoshida's puzzled look, Takahashi Makoto shook his head helplessly and pointed to the limp assistants behind him. In order to create that masterpiece in the future, I am now training with the assistants. The result is a failure. Training. Seeing the dejected faces of the assistants, Yoshida stopped his curious exploration in time. Ahem, Chen, I'm here to get the comic manuscript, the last chapter of the 3 monster comics, and the comic manuscript you said you were going to prepare for the monthly serialization. Huh? Monthly serialization? Everyone on the assistant side looked at Takahashi Chen in confusion, and then all turned to Yoshida, who was stunned. Ding Ding still spoke as the leader. Mr. Yoshida, this kind of thing, we have never heard of it. Oh, I haven't heard of it, what? Yoshida looked at Takahashi Chen in shock. Hey, Chen, what's going on? You said on the phone before that the comic manuscript has been completed, right? Humph. The comic manuscript has indeed been completed. Takahashi Chen looked at the sky and said slowly, when the world was in chaos, there was a man named Feng Guangai Yuan Xiongzhen, and just developed the so-called consciousness, and then predicted what would happen in the future by spying on the current world line, so the comics were already prepared on the day the universe was born. In order to prevent ignorant mortals from spying, I specially used the second method to seal it in the barrier. Stop. After hearing that there was no problem with the comics, Yoshida stopped Takahashi Makoto from performing the brutal Chuyuni nostalgia killing in time, gave the assistant a look of "I'll give you an explanation later," and stretched out his hand to Takahashi Makoto. Then, where is the comics? You said before that you would give it to me today. Ha 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 ha. Takahashi Makoto suddenly covered his left eye and laughed wildly. I finally waited for the day when the seal is lifted. With the tears of human suffering, the name of Feng Guangai Yuan Xiongzhen, am really crazy. Stop it. Whether you want to conquer the world or destroy humanity, I won't care about your future. Yoshida interrupted Takahashi Makoto's second-year syndrome without any hesitation, staring at Takahashi Makoto. So stop talking nonsense, where is the comic draft? Looking up at the sky, Takahashi Makoto was silent for a long time, and his face suddenly turned pale. Tisk. Will the red star break through the sky, and will the seal of Shenzhou be lifted soon? My cat, now is not the time to worry about the comic draft. Although I am the king of the demon world, I left the demon world in the last few epochs to protect the witch, and the demon world rebelled, so now I must repair the seal of Tianzihen as soon as possible to save the world. As soon as the words fell, in the astonished eyes of Yoshida and his assistant, Takahashi Makoto disappeared at an extremely fast speed. The assistant, who was so tired that he collapsed on the ground, had no time to stop him. Yoshida was a weakling with all his talent points added to Black Belly, so he could only roar to the sky. Takahashi Makoto. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 273. When the new issue of Shonen Jump was released, many readers noticed that the cover of this time was actually the two protagonists of the manga Ushio and Tora, and there were naturally other characters from other monster comics, such as Inuyasha, Nura Group, and Natsume. Of course, the most eye-catching thing about the cover of this issue is the eye-catching reminder floating next to the character. The final chapters of the three comics Inuyasha, Ushio, and Tora and Natsume will put an end to the monster era. Looking at the sample issue in his hand, Yashida's mouth twitched constantly. Although Makoto Takahashi had said before that the three monster comics would be completed at the same time in the future, Yashida had always thought that this was just Makoto Takahashi's casual talk, but he never expected that he would actually do it. And in that way, for the completion of the comics, many readers who have been following it will have an indescribable sadness in their hearts, so no matter how the comics are completed, no matter what kind of ending the comics end with, it will always cause dissatisfaction among readers. This is the so-called difficult to satisfy everyone. Therefore, many cartoonists usually choose to write the last chapter of the comics on the last page of the comics. Few people, like Makoto Takahashi, publish it on the cover in such an arrogant way. In the previous chapter of the comic Inuyasha, all the strength of the protagonist was gathered, and finally the villain Naruto was defeated. But there are still some places that are not clear. For example, before Naruto died, he used the power of the Four Souls Jade to seal the bone-eating well, so that Inuyasha and Kagome, who had become the official couple, had to be separated by time and space and belong to different eras. Regarding Inuyasha, many readers sincerely hope that there will be a good ending. After all, when Kikyo died before, many readers were already dissatisfied. If Kagome and Inuyasha, the couple, appeared again, because of Naruto's last wish, they would never meet and could only miss each other across time and space. Many readers said that they would definitely have a good talk with Makoto Takahashi about life. In the comic Ushio and Tora, this tells the story of how Ushio and Tora worked together to defeat the villain White-Faced One. Although the price of this victory is the complete death of Ahu, and Xiao Chao will lose his soul and become a beast. For such a miserable victory, most readers still restrain their emotions, because the comics did not end like this, leaving people with a glimmer of hope in their hearts, fantasizing about a happy ending. So when Ushio and Tiger published the final episode, readers' expectations for it were no less than the comic Inuyasha. As for the comic Natsume, this is the work that makes readers grit their teeth the most. In addition to the sad and depressing content in each episode, the most important reason is the behavior of the cat teacher who always keeps people on suspense. Although it has come to the end, the readers who have been played by Takahashi Makoto through the cat teacher many times have completely lost hope. After all, from the tone of the cat teacher before, it can be inferred that a major event once happened in the monster world, which will make the powerful monsters in the future less. But what happened? The comics have never revealed it. Even now entering the last episode, still no news is revealed. Since it is a major event that affects the world of monsters, can it be completed in just one chapter? Complaints aside, even if readers have resentment, the publication of the content called the last chapter still makes readers curious. And with the spread of the news that the same cartoonist will complete 3 comics at the same time, the Shonen Jump release this week set a new record and sold out in just one morning. The final chapter of the monster era. Slightly different from the previous serialization, the 3 monster comics published this time were not serialized separately under their own names, but appeared again in the form of superfusion. The picture below the title has explained everything well. The content at the beginning of the comic is not Inuyasha, which makes readers extremely concerned and describes a couple in different eras, nor is it Ushio and Tora, which pays a heavy price to kill the white-faced man, but Natsume, which has been constantly pitting readers. Natsume, that happened many years ago. At that time, I guess you were not born yet, meow. Another trick? Seeing this scene appearing again in the comics, many readers couldn't help but twitch their mouths, and subconsciously wanted to skip this part. In fact, many readers did this, and found that Inuyasha, Katsugu, and Ahu appeared in the later content, and even a large number of characters appeared in the previously completed comic Nura. This time it seems to be true. Is teacher Nico finally going to tell this past? When some readers who chose to skip saw the scenes where various characters appeared in the back, they realized that teacher Nico would really tell the story this time, and would not cheat people as usual. After realizing the mistake of their previous choice, some readers had to read from the beginning, read every word very carefully. However, contrary to the expectations of many readers, at the beginning of the story, a certain crazy original author deliberately jumped the scene to Inuyasha. Although they realized that they were accidentally cheated again, being able to see the ending of Inuyasha first also relieved the resentment of many readers. As expected by many readers, the ending of Inuyasha is a happy ending. Several years after successfully wiping out Naraku, the bone-eating well, which disappeared because of Naraku, reappeared. The half-demon Inuyasha, who had become the nanny of Coral and Moroku's children, rushed to the Well of Bones after smelling Kagam's scent and hugged the lover who spanned time and space. The final chapter of the Age of Monsters has such a happy ending as soon as it begins, which makes many readers begin to have fantasies of anticipation. For example, in the following Chow and Tiger, Xiao Chow stopped transforming into a beast for some reasons, and Ahu was resurrected for some reasons. I have to say that after seeing the Light of Hope, I always want to get more light, even wants to monopolize the sun. Human greed is indeed better than the endless black hole. The content of Inuyasha does not end here. Instead, some daily plots are added. In the comics, Inuyasha even entered the bone-eating well with Kagam and came to the world 500 years later. Just when everyone on the reader's side was quite happy with the ending of Inuyasha, an accident happened again. In the world where Kagam lives, a strong earthquake suddenly occurred, and the entire sky was covered by dark clouds. Monsters hidden in modern society, belonging to hostile camps, began a large-scale battle. Oh, so that's it? I was just wondering why Inuyasha suddenly appeared before. Seeing this, many readers understand why Inuyasha got involved in the plot of The Tide and the Tiger before. It turns out that Inuyasha at that time had successfully eliminated Naraku and only came to modern society by accident. Because the white-faced man wreaked havoc and seriously affected the entire world, Inuyasha appeared on the battlefield. Just when the readers realized that the changes in the world were caused by the white-faced man, the manga moved to another part again, because Inuyasha was not the only monster who entered the battlefield before. Because of the society dominated by humans, monsters have declined. After the battle with Abe Sime, the Nuragumi transformed into the King of Darkness. While guarding the declining monsters, they also protect the weak humans, the white-faced man naturally. The monsters of the Nura group would not ignore the persecution of humans and monsters, so they traveled thousands of miles from the base camp of Edo. All members of the Nura group also became a part of the punishment of the white-faced man army. Although it is only a short part of the content, it does a good job of explaining to the readers the reasons why the Nura group entered the Tide and the Tiger before. Rikuo, I'll leave the Nurao group to you next. After watching Rikuo Nurao take the 100 demons and set off, the first-generation slick ghost Nura Huepiao, who had always appeared as a kind old man, vomited for a long time. He rolled his eyes and said this as if giving his last words. Yingji, it seems that the time for our reunion is coming soon, wait for me. Although what Nurahuaguo said made many readers worried, what is very regrettable for readers is that the next plot of Slippery Ghost ends here, and the only content revealed is that the first generation has been completed. A handsome transformation, back to the free and uninhibited gangster leader, the cartoonist named Phoenix Academy is still unrepentant and continues to dig holes in the final chapter. The powerful monster white-faced back then had extremely powerful strength, facing the situation where the world was about to be destroyed. Even though humans and monsters united and fought desperately, the gap in strength was really too big. The content once again switched to Natsum. Teacher Nico continued to tell Natsum about the previous tragic war. If it weren't for the human who used the beast spear and the powerful monster, I'm afraid this world would have been a long time ago. Already. Teacher Cat, was it during that war that all the powerful monsters were wiped out by the white-faced man? It's not like that, Naya. Teacher Nico rolled on the ground, then curled up into a ball, stared at Natsum and said slowly, after the white-faced man was eliminated, there were actually many big monsters that survived, but because of that incident. Like Natsum, everyone on the reader side also wants to know what happened after the white-faced man as the culprit was eliminated, causing many powerful monsters to disappear. In the manga, Natsum can listen to Mr. Nico's narration, but as a three-dimensional reader, he can't wait to turn to the next page. As expected by many readers, the content of the next comic jumps to the story of Ushio and Tiger, and the content at the beginning is exactly the part that many readers are concerned about. Xiaoxiao is transforming into a beast. Xiao Qiao, who is transforming into a beast, although his soul has been swallowed by the beast spear, still barely retains a trace of consciousness. What he sees when he opens his eyes is the swordsmith Yi Long, who used his body to forge the beast spear and the first-generation guardian. Although the person has been dead for thousands of years, but now he appears in front of Xiao Qiao in the form of a soul. You eliminated the white-faced man. No matter how many times we say thank you, we can't express our gratitude to you. The brother and sister first expressed their heartfelt thanks to Xiao Qiao, and then looked at each other, and then the guardian spoke and relieved Xiaoqiao's doubts. Our destiny has always been to eliminate the white-faced man. Now that the white-faced man has been eliminated, in order to repay your kindness, we brothers and sisters are willing to entrust our souls to you, so that he will become a beast because he lost his soul. The beast spear carrying Yulong's soul turned into fragments again. However, unlike the last time it was shattered by the white-faced man, this time the fragments of the beast spear hit Xiao Qiao. The armor on Xiaoqiao's body was shattered, and he stopped transforming into a beast. He fell from the sky and fell into his father's arms. Humans, when Master Xiao Qiao wakes up later, please help us say thank you to him. The leader of the monster army came to Xiao Qiao and said to Xiaoqiao's father, thanks to Master Xiao Qiao and Master Ahu, only then can we completely defeat the white-faced man. Now, it's time for us to leave. Wait, where are you going? As if he heard the parting meaning in the monster leader's words, Xiao Qiao's father Zimu asked anxiously. The sealed place where the white-faced man was previously was the pillar supporting the entire East continent. Now that the white-faced man is dead, the entire East continent has lost its support and has begun to sink. We will transform into stone statues, support the land of Dongzhou. The monster leader looked at Xiao Qiao in Zimu's arms, with a smile on his face. Fortunately, Master Xiao Qiao is still in a coma, otherwise, with his character, he would definitely stop us from doing this. Humans, although we have jointly fought against the white-faced man before, we still don't like you. Another monster following the monster leader slowly flew up. We are not doing this for you humans, but for this land that we have lived in and loved deeply. So, goodbye, human beings. Countless monsters began to dive into the sea, filling the huge cave where the white-faced man was previously. Seeing the monsters in the comics gradually turning into stone statues, many readers began to feel depressed. I wanted to turn to the next page of the comic to relieve the heavy feeling in my heart, but unexpectedly, more exciting content appeared at this moment. We are the #1 Nulayan group in the world, so at this time. Nurarikushin looked at the monsters diving into the sea one after another, with a chic smile on his face. He turned around to face the embarrassed 100 demons, preparing to launch the 100 demons night walk like other monsters. he transformed his body into a form to support Dongzhou. The cornerstone of the earth. Unfortunately, Rikuo was knocked unconscious by a black shadow that suddenly appeared in the middle of his heroic declaration. Yukiana, I'll leave Rikuo to you next. Hualao, whose appearance was 90% similar to Rikuo's, handed the unconscious Rikuo to Yukiana, then turned to face the following monsters and shouted his final words. The most handsome declaration, young men, follow me and charge forward. Let the other monsters see the domineering strength of the Nuragumi, the best in the world. Ah, the general really loves to fool around. Niugui watched Hualao carrying the short sword sideways and rushed to the front with a helpless smile on his face. He turned to complain to the several big monsters around him. It's really hard to trust such a general, right, Ichimakolian? Humph. I feel quite uncomfortable when I think of being turned into stone with you guys. Ichimokuren spat out his eyes and handed the bags under his eyes to Rikuo Sheng's arms. I hope that the future third generation of the Nura group will not be as passionate and impulsive as the general, it is really worrying. Yukiana, Rikuo-sama, I'm leaving it to you. And my 3 idiot children too. After the Crow Tengu circled Rikuo several times, he complained to the Gyuki and others beside him, hurry up and follow the general. Hakuki Yaka of the Nura group is the only general with tattoos on his face, but he will make others laugh. Yukiana, Nuragumi, and Rikuo-sama, I'll leave it to you. Xiaowu, the Nulayan group depends on you. As they said goodbye and thought of each other, the big monsters of the Nura group all turned into fashion, chasing the figure of Nurahua, dived into the sea, and flew towards the huge cave. The comic does not end here. The crazed Phoenix Academy fierce master did not let go of a certain pair of star-crossed lovers, and extended his raging claws to a certain arrogant half-demon. Kagome, I'm sorry. After putting the demon sword into its sheath, Inuyasha lowered his head and muttered to himself, although it's not easy to meet, but, I. Before he finished speaking, Inuyasha also jumped into the deep sea. As if she had a telepathic connection, Kagome, who was praying at the shrine at home, looked up at the distant sky, holding the amulet tightly in her hands that had not yet been given to Inuyasha, and whispered. Inuyasha, I believe you will definitely come back, definitely. But now this amulet is broken in the middle. Now that Inuyasha and Slicker have appeared, Natsume has naturally not been ignored. Many monsters that appeared in Natsume have also made the same move, including some big monster-level existences. Seeing the monsters turning into stone statues one after another in order to fill the huge cave, the person on the reader's side was completely silent. Not only the monsters in Ushio and Tora, but also the monsters in Inuyasha, Slicker and Natsume who got into it, were not spared by the Phoenix Academy's Ojima in Zombie Ultimate. Although I didn't like reading the comic Slippery Ghost very much before, but because of the content of this chapter, I must buy all the single volumes of Slippery Ghost. Inuyasha, you big idiot. Why do you have to be a hero at this time? Kagome is still waiting for you to go back. Grandpa is so great. He deserves to be the first generation of the Nura clan. Is this the case for the crazed demon king of the Phoenix Academy, Jima? It's obviously just the content of The Tide and the Tiger, so why are so many characters involved? It is normal for readers to have different preferences for these monster comics, but this time Super Fusion seems to be going well. At least the readers who read the comics did not give up reading the comics because of the intrusion of the characters, although the final ending made many people regret after watching it. In order to protect this land, we are willing to pay any price, even if it means sacrificing our lives or even our souls. If I have to explain the reason for doing this, it is probably because we love this land deeply. The Age of Monsters, the final chapter, the end. The last page of the comic is just a side view of the entire Dongzhou continent. Human beings on the ground are still living normally, but in the part submerged by the sea, there are some strange stone sculptures, and some general figures can be vaguely recognized. Silhouette, that's all. The people who can persist to the end are definitely non-humans who belong to the monster camp like you, Cheng. After putting down the comic sample, Yoshida's eyes were red, and he looked at Makoto Takahashi who was drinking over there. He complained with an unhappy face, although it's not the first time I watched it, I still feel uncomfortable watching it again. My familiar cat, are you here to complain? Taking a sip of the wine in his glass, Makoto Takahashi leaned on the sofa and used his banishing skills on Yoshida. The manga manuscript for the monthly magazine will be waiting for the next time, Commander. I will only take it out when the adults come, so today it's a pity that you have to go back empty-handed again. I just came here to take refuge today. Yoshida rubbed his eyes, turned off his phone completely, and complained helplessly to Makoto Takahashi. In the next few weeks, the editorial department will definitely be called explosive. The editorial department will definitely be ruined by a wicked guy like Cheng. Oh, that's really gratifying. Makoto Takahashi put down his wine glass, with an expectant smile on his face, squinting his right eye and staring at Yoshida. Hey, my favorite cat, since the editorial department is going to be destruction, then can we play a little bigger? What? Do you want to play more? Yoshida suddenly jumped up from the sofa like a cat with hairy hair. He really deserves the title of a companion cat. My beloved cat, I'm sorry to say, it's too late to stop it now. Makoto Takahashi gave a thumbs up proudly. After activating super fusion this time, I gained enough the energy, is finally able to awaken my true form, His Majesty the Demon King of Healing and Love. So my beloved cat, you can start cheering now, drink, ha 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 ha. Looking at Makoto Takahashi who stepped on the table and laughed wildly, Yoshida had an ominous premonition mixed with misfortune. Oh, it was broken. If the 6,000 word barrier was charged normally, it should be able to reach new heights. But unfortunately, something unexpected happened yesterday, unfortunately, and then the charging skill was disabled. Broke. Today is the Chinese Valentine's Day, which is one more night than Brazil's. I guess all of you are currently or preparing to say, so I'm going to post a long chapter, so as not to break it apart and affect the reading effect. If you have any doubts, I'll say, Yaxing cough. It doesn't matter whether I am single or single, I wish you a happy Chinese Valentine's Day and go to bed early. The above said meow, /U003E caret omega caret /U003C. A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao Do Sde Mao. Chapter 274. At least 80% of readers expressed dissatisfaction with the outcome of Makoto Takahashi's use of hyperfusion. Although after the release of that issue of Shonen Jump, it was clearly stated at the end of the comic that this was the last chapter of the yokai manga, but members of the reader side did not believe that the yokai manga would end like this. However, with the release of the next issue of Shonen Jump, the space originally used to publish the Phoenix Academy's Vicious Monster comics was replaced by 3 comics. Readers finally realized that the crazy killing ending was actually this is truly the end of the yokai manga. Then there was no more, the war to conquer the Phoenix Academy's murderer broke out. Dissatisfaction with the way the manga ended in this way, resentment at the heart-rending choice of the cartoonist Hohoin Koshin, readers began to criticize the editorial department when they could not find the cartoonist Hohoin Koshin. Brutal attacks on demonstrations. First, there was a phone storm that lasted for nearly a month. As Yoshida had expected, an exaggerated situation occurred in the editorial department. For a whole month, the phone rang non-stop. Members of the editorial department kept repeating, "Answer the phone, explain." This unsolvable fourfold cycle of hanging up and answering the phone, editors who have their own cartoonists are slightly better off. They can use the excuse of having to go out to collect cartoon manuscripts to stay away from the center of the disaster, but those who are always there, the editorial staff in the office, were almost driven crazy by torture. By the way, The editor-in-chief who had outstanding performance and ability was originally going to be assigned to be in charge of the monthly magazine this month. However, due to the chaos caused by Makoto Takahashi, the editor-in-chief had to take over and stay in Shonen Jump for a while. Deal with this turbulent chaos. The second is the resistance behavior on the reader's side. Although most readers are quite unhappy with the ending of the comic, there are also some sane people among them. Faced with the ending of 3 comics in this way, some members of the reader side who maintained a neutral attitude called on everyone on the reader side to calm down. At the same time, they also made requests to the editorial department, hoping that the cartoonist Hohoin Kuma would give everyone an explanation. I hope that the manga artist Hohoin Kuma can give an explanation. I hope. It's just a pity that for a whole month, the manga artist Hohoin Kuma has not given any explanation or excuse to the readers. Although the cartoonist Hohoin Kuma has the 3 characteristics of wearing a white coat, wearing an eye patch, and speaking and acting in a tactful manner, it is quite difficult to find a person in the vast sea of people. Although some of Makoto Takahashi's former classmates had provided the original address of Makoto Takahashi's home after joining the reader side Allied forces to attack Makoto Takahashi, the results of the investigation by the Pioneer Army showed that it had already become the filming and production place of Philosophy Diamond Suit movie. Therefore, the readers who were still neutral before, in despair and anger, finally agreed to launch a boycott demonstration and appealed to the massive readers of Shonen Jump. If the cartoonist Phoenix Inferno did not explain clearly, they would boycott Shonen Jump. The behavior will be carried out to the end. Of course, such extreme behavior is only the wish of some readers. Not everyone will give up the Young Jump Weekly that has accompanied them to grow up for this reason. However, according to the statistics of the editor, during the resistance actions in the month since it was launched, the sales volume of the weekly magazine has indeed dropped a lot compared to before. Makoto Takahashi, who was the culprit at the root of the disaster, received a lot of information from Showbiz-chan, but he did not take any action. He just gave his assistants a long vacation, and then just disappeared from the world. Just like that, Yoshida, who came to the door several times, was in vain. I'm very sorry, Mr. Yoshida, the young master is not at home. Yoshida looked at Showbiz-chan who was smiling but did not answer. A hint of helplessness flashed in his eyes. How many times has this happened? The butler in black tuxedo in front of him always had this smile on his face whenever he came to look for Takahashi Makoto during this period, and he obviously looked like I know where Takahashi Makoto has gone, but every time when I tried to find a clue from the conversation, the other party easily avoided the key part. It's not that Yoshida hasn't tried before, such as asking Showbiz-chan about the whereabouts of Rina and her 2 children, trying to locate and capture Takahashi Makoto through his wife and children. Unfortunately, the answer was that they were with the young master. Together, when I continued to ask about the whereabouts of Takahashi Makoto and his party, I got exactly the same answers as before, just like the NPC in the RPG who only repeats one line of dialogue. If life is a game, I must have chosen the master level difficulty at the very beginning. Like an uncle looking for a paradise, Yoshida had an expression on his face that said he was about to die of illness after failure, like a zombie. Just like that, I left Makoto Takahashi's house staggeringly. Master, according to your previous arrangements, Mr. Yoshida has inquired about your whereabouts for the 28th time. Looking at Yoshida's disappearing back, Showbiz-chan took out his mobile phone and turned to the phone with a smile on his face. Makoto Takahashi over there asked, "Are you following the previous setting and waiting until Mr. Yoshida triggers the hidden condition of questioning Makoto Takahashi's whereabouts for the 30th time before telling, 'Yes, I understand'?" Fortunately, Yoshida's hearing is not master level, and he does not have a high IQ to use the returning spear skill. Otherwise, if he knew about Takahashi Makoto's evil arrangements, Yoshida would definitely have a reason to fight with Takahashi Makoto. Even if you fall into hell because of this, you will have no regrets. Hey! That bastard Ogata slime actually wants to take this opportunity to reconstruct the rune seal that summons the witch Rina. Makoto Takahashi, who was carrying two children one behind the other, said unhappily. Walking out of a certain building, he kept complaining, "It's rare that this time I can bring new people to refresh the new village dungeon, but I was dragged by that bastard to be a temporary worker. I am not a member of the master house, but a crazy cartoonist. The Phoenix Academy is really ferocious." Before Takahashi Makoto finished his complaint, he heard a resentful roar next to him. Sunsheng looked over and saw a young man with headphones on a chair not far away. He was clutching a comic book with both hands and muttering in a low voice with red eyes, an attitude that didn't care about the attention of passers-by at all. Made Takahashi Makoto stop taking action. "Young man, why are you so angry?" Slowly arriving in front of the young man, Takahashi Makoto covered half of his face, with the cold murderous intent exuding from his remaining right eye, and slowly drew out his eyes from his waist. "Demonic sword broken star, although I don't know what happened to you, but, disturbing the rest of the Demon King and his family is a sin of heavenly punishment. Do you want to die completely?" I'm sorry, although the boy didn't want to say this in his heart, the cold feeling on his neck undoubtedly showed that the weapon in the opponent's hand was real. If he didn't apologize seriously, he would definitely be beaten by this sudden appearance in front of him. The guy hacked and killed. Hey, it's really insincere to apologize in this tone. Makoto Takahashi slowly took back the magic sword, with a disdainful smile on his face, "But since it was an unintentional mistake on your part, I will forgive you with great mercy this time." Is this guy mentally ill? The boy looked at Makoto Takahashi in astonishment. Boy, our comics, interesting. Glancing at the comics in the boy's hand, Takahashi Makoto showed a smile on his face, because the comics spread out in the boy's hands were the products of the previous super fusion. Looking at Makoto Takahashi sitting next to him, the boy's face looked a little unusual. After all, the person who almost killed him with murderous intent a second ago is now communicating with him in an attitude like a friend he hasn't seen for many years. This kind of behavior is definitely not something that normal people can do, although the boy is he wanted to stay away from this dangerous person immediately, but the boy's instinct was telling him that once he took this approach, the consequences would be absolutely unimaginable. Yes, it's very interesting. The restless boy looked at Makoto Takahashi's increasingly gloomy expression and immediately stammered in reply, "It's just the manga artist Hohoin Kayama." Huh? From your tone, it sounds like you are really dissatisfied with the Phoenix Academy. Eh? No, that's not the case. I just feel as if a certain switch had been touched. The young man saw the man in the white coat staring at him with interest, and his feeling of uneasiness became more and more intense. Be strong. The boy secretly looked at the face of the weirdo in front of him and answered cautiously, "I just think the comic ends in this way, which makes people a little." Does it make you feel depressed? Does it make you feel angry? Does it make you feel incomprehensible? Makoto Takahashi looked at the young man in front of him and nodded hurriedly in admission, with a smile on his face. Although human beings have always emphasized the need to live in peace, in reality, they often hurt each other, but this is just a form of love. This. The young man's face showed a look of complete disbelief, but he had no reason to refute Takahashi Makoto's words. Although the words and deeds of the weirdo in front of me are a bit abnormal, I have to admit that what the other person said does make sense, but it always sounds weird. Why do you say that? Huh? Young man, it seems that you are also a person with stories. Seeing the young man in front of him squeaking and not saying anything for a long time, Takahashi Makoto showed an "I understand" look on his face. Patting the boy on the shoulder hard, in fact, people's daily life is constantly hurting each other. It's not strange to doubt others, but if you don't believe anything, it's the same as feeling without the love of others. Have you never suffered from being alone? Have you ever lived humbly? Probably. Each word pierces people's heart. Who is this weird guy in front of him? There was a pensive look on the young man's face. After pondering for a long time, he gave Takahashi Makoto an uncertain answer. Really? Then you are probably loved too, right? In order not to let that love disappear, boy, live strong, Takahashi Makoto patted the boy's shoulder again, with a relieved smile on his face. So, the most important thing between people is love and peace. Love and peace. The boy looked at Takahashi Makoto in disbelief, but the corners of his mouth kept twitching. Let's not talk about how this weirdo in front of him said this shameful word seriously without changing his expression. Is the guy who drew his sword and threatened others without asking the reason before qualified to say this? But I seem to have heard this way of speaking before. Makoto-kun, Rina, wearing sunglasses, suddenly came to Takahashi Makoto, pouting apologetically, "Sorry, I kept you waiting. My brother insisted on persuading me to go back." Tisk. That bastard Ogata slime actually dared to do this. Takahashi Makoto, who was still smiling just now, stood up angrily at this moment. Haven't you already harvested a lot of valuable materials before? You're still obsessed with the witch, hum. I'm going to chop that greedy guy now. Forget it, Makoto-kun, let's go home. Rina held Takahashi Makoto, who was about to run away, with a happy smile on her face. It's rare that you don't have to work so hard to draw this month. Tisk, a slime with bad luck. What a strange existence, that guy. Forget it, let's just treat what happened just now as an episode. Looking at the gradually disappearing backs of Takahashi Makoto and Rina, the boy showed a helpless bitter smile on his face, and continued to pick up the comic book to read, but the boy suddenly remembered something, and his hand that was flipping the comic book suddenly trembled. He looked up and stared at the direction where Takahashi Makoto was going away, and a trace of doubt appeared between his eyebrows. Wait, I remember there were rumors on the internet before. The cartoonist Feng Guangai Yuan Kima seems to be. The guess in his heart made the boy no longer have the heart to read comics. After rushing back home as quickly as possible, the boy began to look for something on the internet. Soon, the boy's astonished look turned into a helpless bitter smile. Oh my! The weird guy before, it turned out to be the cartoonist Feng Guangai Yuan Kima. The things at home are a bit complicated. Why do humans hurt each other? The closer the person is to you, the more you like to hurt them. It turns out that humans are selfish creatures. Is this the love that sister you said to today? Ha 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 ha, I tried my best to seal my dark personality yesterday, so I'm sorry for not updating. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Mao. Chapter 275. During the month when Makoto Takahashi disappeared, the little sea otter suffered the most cruel torture from Yoshida. Compared to the unconventional Chuyuniga manga artist Hohoin Kuma, the little sea otter, who had a history of escaping before, naturally became the focus of Yoshida's care. In order to prevent the little sea otter from suddenly disappearing from the world like Takahashi Makoto, Yoshida basically lived in the little sea otter's home for this month. The little sea otter, who was not very focused at first, under Yoshida's supervision like a supervisor, no longer took a break after drawing comics for a while as before, but kept drawing and drawing in front of the table every day. In this month, the little sea otter, let alone dating Miss Kang Shuhong, even if he wants to take a rest, he has to get Yoshida's nod. As usual, Yoshida sat on the sofa with his legs crossed, faithfully playing the role of the devil's overseer. Once the little sea otter shows signs of laziness, Yoshida, who has completely transformed into an S-attribute this month, will treat the little sea otter unceremoniously. Sea otters educate in various ways. Yoshida, I can't do it anymore. This is the 7th time the little sea otter complained today. It doesn't matter what the serialization is, I already have it now anyway. Although the little sea otter experienced Yoshida's torture during this month, the laziness factor in him not only did not decrease, but gradually accumulated. According to a certain scientific saying, the result of quantitative change will eventually lead to qualitative change, so today, the little sea otter showed a rare domineering attitude. He threw the paintbrush to the ground and slid down the chair limply to lie on the ground. It seemed that he was preparing to start the child's exclusive acting like a spoiled brat mode. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Here American, are you giving up so soon? Yoshida put down the comic book in his hand, raised his head and looked at the little sea otter rolling on the ground, with a devilish smile on his face. Listen to me first, this paragraph American, the way you work hard during this time, I mentioned it to teacher Ken Shuhong before. Really? What did Yuri-chan say? The little sea otter who was still complaining on the ground just now rushed to Yoshida's feet like a loyal dog and looked at Yoshida with a flattering look on his face. Hey, Mr. Yoshida, please tell me. What did my Yuri-chan say? Well, how about finishing the manga manuscript of this chapter first? This is the law of equivalent exchange formulated by your most respected god, Phoenix Academy Kumamoto. If you want to know something, you must pay something. Yoshida looked down at Xiao Sea Otter. Just when he was about to continue to induce, his phone suddenly vibrated, and the name on the caller ID was, Makoto Takahashi. My beloved cat, are you still alive? Makoto Takahashi's twitching voice came from the phone. Takahashi Makoto, Yoshida gritted his teeth and showed veins on his face. His angry tone was as aggrieved as an abandoned little animal. Where have you been during this time? Bang. He was not torn to pieces by the readers who lost their minds. Takahashi Makoto complained in a low voice, which undoubtedly added fuel to the fire, even though Yoshida on the other side of the phone silently recited the poor monk's dharma can endure it countless times. But still can't stop the spread and raging of anger. Before Yoshida could roar and complain like a death roar, Makoto Takahashi calmly explained in a lazy voice, in order to save the entire world, I went through a cruel war. Faced with the situation that once prevented the hero who has faced the crisis of human extinction, my beloved cat, you still complain, you will die, you will be punished by the gods. Apologize to the hero Phoenix Academy immediately. I'm sorry. I didn't know you actually did such a great thing. Did you think I would say that? Yoshida took another deep breath and decisively started to fight back angrily. It's the responsibility of those superheroes to save the world. As a cartoonist, you can draw comics at home, you bastard. Eh? But the era of monsters is over, and I no longer have comics being serialized. Judging from the current situation, I can no longer be regarded as an orthodox cartoonist. Makoto Takahashi was on the phone. With a tone of extreme astonishment, he easily defused Yoshida's fierce offensive and at the same time did not forget to counterattack. Besides, saving the world is not something that only those guys from H Processing Port can do. My beloved cat, I will quietly tell you a secret. When I was young, I once inspired myself to become a partner of justice. But now you are just a cartoonist. Although Yoshida wanted to complain like this, unfortunately, it seemed that because memory kill triggered some kind of seal-breaking spell, Takahashi Makoto entered a state of chattering and began to tell Yoshida about Takahashi Makoto's style of justice, various related adventures. For example, he saved 20,000 clones from a certain Lilicon of unknown gender. For example, in order to save a certain girl, he participated in many Holy Grail wars as a master while constantly changing the world line. For example, in order to prevent the conflict between humans and adjusters, he issued a declaration of doom to the entire human race with a sky-breaking combat power. Another example is, in short, the nature of the call has changed. What should have been Yoshida's venting complaint full of anger and grievance has become a bizarre adventure of a middle-class cartoonist who disappeared for a month. Ah, I'm really lucky for you. Wait. So my beloved cat, it is really not easy for me to come back alive. Makoto Takahashi finally ended the call with such sad feelings, and before Yoshida could react, he cut off the call without ceremony. Yoshida looked at the call-ended message on his cell phone with a livid expression on his face, and pressed the call back without hesitation. The call was hung up, and then the phone was turned off. Practice has proved that no matter what the state of Shuyunibu is, it is a category that ordinary people cannot challenge. Even Yoshida, who was able to torture the little sea otter to the point of death, still had no suspense in front of Makoto Takahashi, who was in his second grade, a complete defeat. However, in a state of anger, Yoshida completely forgot about his ability to fight against the five scum. He was not a monster opponent like Takahashi Makoto at all. Without any hesitation or cowardice, he was ready to go to the door to find an explanation from Takahashi Makoto. As for, is this the awakening of the soul of a responsible editor, or is it the helpless behavior of an angry child? It clearly tells everyone that anger will lead to destruction. Lord Phoenix in Ojima, you are indeed my god, Kazuya Hiramaru, and you are indeed someone I am willing to dedicate my whole life to. Because Takahashi Makoto suddenly appeared and attracted a lot of hatred from Yoshida, the little sea otter finally got rid of Yoshida's torture. That's why the little sea otter expressed such gratitude from the bottom of his heart. It's like, no, the little sea otter looks like this now. He has undoubtedly become a devout believer of Makoto Takahashi. Although the little sea otter believed in Takahashi Makoto before because of Miss Kang Shuhong, and his belief was not very pious, but after Yoshida's month of trial, the little sea otter has firmed up his faith. After the cold wind blew on the road, Yoshida, who had lost his mind due to anger, gradually calmed down. To be precise, it should be that Yoshida finally remembered the nature of his fight against the five scum, and rashly went to find Makoto Takahashi, which was an obvious act of suicide. But after ringing the doorbell of Makoto Takahashi's house, I realized this problem. Yoshida, was your reaction a little late? My beloved cat, I didn't expect you to come here so soon. Makoto Takahashi looked at the pale Yoshida at the door and scratched his head in confusion. Although I haven't seen you for only a month, but I'm surprised to say, you have mastered the future prediction skill in such a short period of time, so congratulations. What are you talking about, Editor-in-Chief? Are you actually here with Makoto Takahashi? Yoshida didn't react at first, but when he entered Takahashi Makoto's house, he found the editor-in-chief sitting on the sofa with a serious look on his face. Yoshida's doubtful eyes kept wandering between Takahashi Makoto and the editor-in-chief, but he breathed a long sigh of relief. At least if the editor-in-chief was present, his life could be saved. Then let's continue the previous topic. Commander-in-Chief, although his tone was questioning, Makoto Takahashi, who was full of aura, walked to the opposite side of the editor and kept tapping his fingers on the table. I'll be the one to convince you on the cartoonist side, and I'll leave it to you as the editor. Actually, there is no precedent for what you did before. It's just this time. The editor-in-chief looked hesitant, looking at Makoto Takahashi with confusion. There shouldn't be many problems with the editorial department, but as for other cartoonists, how do you convince them? If it goes as you envision. What happened? Because he joined in the middle, Yoshida said he didn't understand it at all. From a few words, he could infer that Takahashi Makoto wanted to do something very involved, and it had already involved the editorial department and cartoonists. Although I have been holding back a lot of questions, this is obviously not the time to interrupt rashly. Man. The bet we made before was just for today. Makoto Takahashi showed a disdainful smile. Because you are looking forward to the opportunity to make a wish, are you so stupid that you forget the price you have to pay? Human beings are such a hopelessly greedy scum. Commander, I'm really looking forward to the scene where all the cartoonists will fulfill their bets. Ha 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 ha. Huh? Bet. The editor-in-chief had a puzzled look on his face, and asked Makoto Takahashi with some uncertainty, Makoto Takahashi, you said you can convince other cartoonists because you have made an agreement before. A bet? Could it be the previous agreement? Through the hint of keywords, Yoshida's face instantly became a little strange when he thought of something. Seeing the confused look on the editor's face, Yoshida wanted to tell the editor about the content of Makoto Takahashi's bet, but before he could speak, Makoto Takahashi stopped him with a sharp look. If you dare to ruin this plan that makes me happy, my beloved cat, you will be dead. Of course. My familiar cat knows about this. With a thumbs up and a confident smile on his face, Takahashi Makoto looks like a sunny boy at this moment. Cartoonists compete in cartoons, and the winner makes an irresistible request to the loser. The so-called man is to fight in an upright manner. This is true romance. In that case, leave the editorial department to me. The editor-in-chief was completely deceived by Makoto Takahashi's hearty smile, and a smile appeared on his serious face. Leave the rest to Yoshida. Haha, do you want to make a bet? It's really good to be young. Now, Aiken, what you and the editor-in-chief were talking about before was. After the editor-in-chief left, Yoshida asked cautiously, when you ended the era of monsters, you said you wanted to play bigger. Could it be that? That, actually, compared to the future showdown plan, it can only be regarded as an entertainment program at most, so don't worry about it, Takahashi Makoto said, turning his head to look at Yoshida. Hey, my beloved cat, just because the commander was present, there is something very important that I haven't had time to tell you. My beloved cat, I'm back. Some things happened at home recently, it's very troublesome, so troublesome that a certain cat wants to find the true meaning of life. I'm very sorry for the interruption yesterday. Then, a certain cat has updated. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Email. Chapter 276. Hey. Is it just like this? Those guys on the reader's side are really useless. Although he disappeared for a month, Makoto Takahashi knew what was happening in the outside world in detail with his powerful intelligence sources. So the reason why I am making such complaints at this moment is entirely because I am unhappy that the reader's side has not developed as I expected. What do you mean by this level? Yoshida, whose voice rose an octave, looked at Makoto Takahashi with a dark look on his face. Do you know how much trouble it caused after the previous words came out? Even when he was preparing to serve as a new magazine, the editor-in-chief of Young Jump has no choice but to stay in Shonen Jump to deal with the trouble you caused. Remember the domain name of this website, Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Tisk, it's such a rare opportunity. The guys on the reader's side didn't completely wipe out the editorial department. It was a waste of my long-prepared assist. Makoto Takahashi once again stated the reason for his dissatisfaction. The reader's side didn't take too drastic measures. The result of his behavior was that the editorial department was plunged into chaos instead of destruction. Since the expected plan has not been completed, you must accept the punishment. Just as the future showdown plan is about to begin, let the guys on the reader's side feel the gift from His Majesty the Fierce Demon King of the Phoenix Academy, called Love, and a special gift for healing. The last chapter of Yokai Era has set the best score for a single episode since the publication of Shonen Jump. Judging from the number of votes received, Yoshida suddenly entered the infinite emotion mode because of his brain failure. No, all this is just to prepare for what I will say next. Obtaining that exaggerated number of votes is undoubtedly the result of a large amount of support from readers. However, you are now planning to trick readers. Ungrateful words like wolf heart and dog lung probably refer to people like you, Aiken. Hey, Aiken, I'm talking to you about business. Don't sleep at this time. Although Takahashi Makoto is trying his best to look like he is listening attentively, asshole, the way you are swaying left and right with your eyes closed, isn't it the most common Jogong's special tutoring state for students in class? But what surprised Yoshida was that Makoto Takahashi, who usually had monster-like physical strength, would actually fall into such a tired state. It was really rare. It seems that serializing 3 comics at the same time is indeed a very difficult task. Hey, because of that incident, a huge amount of energy was consumed recently. Even if a large amount of dark energy was obtained from the reader's side as a supplement, it was still not enough. In order to replenish the consumed ability, future showdown planned activate, it is indeed an urgent choice. Is this talking in a dream? No, Yoshida looked at the weird smile on Takahashi Makoto's face and felt that someone was not taking a nap just now, but was thinking seriously and rigorously about how to continue to trick everyone on the reader's side next. So, Makoto Takahashi, you bastard, give me the chance to compensate you for that touch of emotion you just felt. Although because of you, the editor-in-chief had to continue to direct the overall situation in the position of editor-in-chief of Young Jump, but in this month, the editor-in-chief has completed the handover of the remaining work. I don't want to continue. When struggling with the previous issues, Yoshida said that if he continues to dwell on what just happened, he will definitely forget the purpose of coming here today. So the comic manuscript you mentioned before, is a comic manuscript prepared for serialization for the monthly magazine. Can you leave it to me? I expected that the rebellion should last for 2 months. Has it been completely handled in just 1 month? Tisk, the commander is really too powerful. Although it was a word of praise, Yoshida couldn't stand it either in tone or expression. No matter how I look at it, I feel that Takahashi Makoto is quite dissatisfied. Should I say that I am worthy of being the former leader of the organization? Although I have underestimated the strength of the commander, but man, I still have a killer move here, which can probably delay it for a month. Let's not talk about what your ultimate move is, Cheng. Yoshida looked at Makoto Takahashi in confusion. Didn't you care about the so-called future duel plan before? Why are you still delaying it for a month now? What's the time? Because I will be very busy in the next month. Makoto Takahashi ended the conversation with Yoshida with a tangled look on his face, and at the same time successfully expelled Yoshida. Makoto Takahashi didn't lie this time, because the next month is indeed very busy. In Yoshida's view, Makoto Takahashi's so-called busyness is probably due to the need to complete the manga manuscripts for monthly and weekly serials, but the actual situation is not like this. Makoto Takahashi has already completed a large number of manga manuscripts before, and as a man who can serialize 3 manga manuscripts at the same time, in the future he will only serialize 2 comics at the same time. Takahashi Makoto said that there is not much pressure, even if it is a monthly magazine. The number of comic manuscripts is larger, but it is much easier than serializing 3 comics at the same time. As a monthly serialized comic, as the main force of the future showdown plan, Makoto Takahashi had already decided what the specific content would be at the beginning, and even secretly saved a lot of manuscripts, so he delayed it. Time and other things. In fact, the specific reason is not Takahashi Makoto's fault, it is simply because the planning collaborators are not doing enough. Although Takahashi Makoto has completed the first 4 chapters, as a weekly comic, the comic manuscript cannot be handed over to Yoshida yet, because this new comic that will be serialized in Shonen Jump is an inspirational reality work, but for some reasons, before entering the serialization, it is necessary to have friendly communication with the cartoonist and editor. Although the commander has agreed to be responsible for communicating with the editor, the cartoonist still needs Takahashi Makoto to handle it himself. So, the comic manuscript is just a small matter. What really keeps Takahashi Makoto busy is naturally the contract ceremony with the witch Rina, which is the so-called wedding. Takahashi Makoto had promised Rina before that as long as the monster era is over, the two will hold a wedding. Although Rina said that it didn't matter, Takahashi Makoto could still feel that Rina was looking forward to this. For example, after coaxing the two children at night, she secretly got up to check the wedding dress style. For example, she asked a violent woman about the relevant matters in the wedding ceremony. For example, she talked with a voice actor's sister. Ahem, the last one was just showing off the happiness of getting married, right, which Rina? The reason why she didn't tell Yoshida about this was mainly because Takahashi Makoto had an unpleasant experience in the past, which left an inexplicable trauma and shadow in his heart, so the wedding invitations were completely handed over to the all-purpose butler Sebastian. Are you getting married to the superstar Rina-chan? Oh, congratulations. I didn't expect you two to actually get together, but is it really okay to get married so early? For the lifespan of us immortals, it's indeed too early to get married now, but there's nothing we can do. We already have a child, meow. A child, a surprised cry came from the other end of the phone, accompanied by the sound of a heavy object hitting the ground, and the echo of a chair overturning and hitting the ground. Hiss, liar, are you lying? Makoto Takahashi, you actually did such a thing? Didn't you say that you would wait until you were at the top of the world before considering the issue of procreation? Why now? Tisk, girl, oh, this is the choice of Steins Gate. I need your help this time, Lord Konakata. Bridesmaid. A real man, Konakata answered energetically on the other end of the phone, and her quick reaction surprised Makoto Takahashi. What identity will I appear as then? Magical girl or vampire princess? Actually, I personally like. Huh? Is this the choice of Steins Gate? Whether it's a magical girl or a vampire princess, they are the specialties of flat-chested Lolita, although in Makoto Takahashi's eyes, those are all Konakata's cute points, but whether it's flat-chested or Lolita, for women who want to develop heterosexual relationships, these two words are definitely a blatant mockery. Takahashi Makoto, you're really brave. You know, the incident about the monster era has just been settled. Unlike the characters in a certain daily anime, Takahashi Makoto's classmate Miss Konakata, although she also has this otaku element, is a complete black-bellied person. I will definitely go to the wedding. As for the dress up at that time, hee. Cat-eared girls are the best. Long live the flat-chested lowly cat-eared girls. So the call ended. By the way, is this the so-called psychological shadow? No matter how you look at it, it seems that it is Takahashi Makoto, you bastard, who has left a deep psychological trauma on others. Okay. Hey, Makoto, who were you talking to just now? Why did I hear you say cat-eared girl or something? The witch Rina is recovering and can quietly approach a certain middle school devil without being discovered. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations to your sister. Rina's face showed a smile that seemed to be a blackening of the collapse. Is it a man? Definitely a man? Definitely a man. Actually, he is an important participant in the future showdown plan and one of my important collaborators in conquering the world, Lord Konakata. Takahashi Makoto would not hide anything from Rina. After all, the intimacy between the two of them has already exceeded the universe, so there is nothing to hide. Contacting her, on the one hand, is to confirm the test for that. On the other hand, it is to inform Lord Konakata of the time of our contract ceremony. Izumi Konakata is a collaborator of Takahashi Makoto, and Rina already knew about this before. And because mentioning the wedding to other single women can completely cut off some unpredictable and uneasy factors, Rina's intimacy with Takahashi Makoto has increased instead of decreased. Since Takahashi Makoto didn't betray her, Rina stopped the transformation of Katsura Kotonoha mode. Konakata-chan? That's right, I should also tell my former classmates about my marriage to Makoto-kun. Rina thought for a moment, and a curious look appeared on her face. Hey, Makoto-kun, about that test, did Konakata-chan say anything? Takahashi Makoto, you crazy bastard, Go die 10,000 times. This is the roar of love and justice from Lord Konakata after the call was connected just now. Takahashi Makoto's imitation skills are not very good, but he still conveyed what Konakata wanted to express very well. Seeing Rina frowning thoughtfully, Takahashi Makoto rubbed Rina's head a little depressed. Konakata, the smiling girl who stays at home all day, actually made such a declaration. Her reaction was too exaggerated. I thought the stand hidden in her body had awakened. That's a normal reaction. After all. Rina suddenly hugged Takahashi Makoto tightly. Tears began to flash in her eyes. I'm sorry, Makoto. I secretly read your comic manuscript last night, you. Takahashi Makoto had told Rina about the content of the future showdown plan before. As one of the insiders of the plan and the wife of the cartoonist Nkuma, the first thing Rina came into contact with was naturally the comic manuscript that Takahashi Makoto placed in a conspicuous place. Takahashi Makoto had never forbidden Rina to read the comic manuscript, so Rina did not suppress her curiosity. As a result, Pandora's box was opened. Oh my, that's true. Although Takahashi Makoto, who has lived 2 lives, has always believed in the creed that a man can only shed tears after bleeding all his blood, when he watched that animation before, he was in a state of faith collapse. I cried every time I watched it. Even if that animation has been changed into a comic now, its lethality cannot be underestimated. So it should be no surprise that Rina would have such a reaction after secretly reading the comic. So, women are all emotional creatures. Even witches can't avoid this. Why does it feel like it's bigger? Is it an illusion? Makoto-kun is really. Rina stopped crying, her face flushed as she pushed Takahashi Makoto away and turned back to the room. Tisk, you are indeed a witch who signed a contract with me. Looking at Rina shyly hiding in the room, Takahashi Makoto pondered for a long time with a look of astonishment. Just now that was a mental attack. Shy and cute killing, such an ordinary trick, can actually break through my magic defense. It seems that the recovery of Witch Rina during this period of time is better than expected. System-friendly reminder, attention diversion operation is a great success. Confirmed to trigger the hidden plot. Chuyuni gentleman route is opening. Sorry. 2 reasons. One is because of the previous suspension of updates. The other is because I have warned readers several times before not to stay up late, but I ended up in a bad situation. My eyes got inflamed these days, so I accepted the doctor's advice and stopped using the computer for the time being. So I haven't updated these days. Sorry. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 277. The month since Makoto Takahashi left should be a rare opportunity for other cartoonists on the cartoonist side. After all, judging from the comic performance rankings, because the 3 monster comics were completed at the same time, they were directly removed from the list. The scores of several comics that had been suppressed before were improved by at least 3 places. Although several cartoonists know this very well, rising cartoon rankings is always a good thing. However, once there is a suitable reason, most human beings can't help but use self-deception to themselves. They will attribute everything to themselves for good development, and blame others for bad results. This is the arrogant nature of human beings seeking advantages and avoiding disadvantages. Although this is said, for the entire comics on Shonen Jump, the loss of 3 monster comics means the loss of 3 competitors. No matter what achievements were achieved and what records were set in the last chapter of Yokai era, it is all in the past now. Any existence that becomes a legend will be gradually forgotten by mankind, so, let's start a brutal fight before a certain cartoonist's new series debuts. This is the common wish of several cartoonists on the side of the cartoonist. For a cartoonist who serializes weekly, the content of a weekly series is only 4 chapters. Although there was no pre-discussed event, the cartoonists on the cartoonist side unanimously chose to work hard within this month. Not to mention the first position, even the top 5 positions, in the entire things are constantly changing during the month. Searched can on Google. By the way, due to the fighting and infighting among the cartoonists, a lot of the negative impact caused by the end of the yokai era was eliminated. This is the main reason why the editor-in-chief was able to quickly stabilize the overall situation within a month. A cartoonist may be able to rely on his talent to support a weekly or monthly magazine on his own, but on the other hand, I have never heard of a cartoonist who can make a monthly or weekly magazine enter the market on his own. The publication is suspended. Because of the issues involved in the new comic, Makoto Takahashi had already talked to the editor before Yoshida showed up. According to the content of the contract, the editor-in-chief will convince the editor-in-chief, while the cartoonist side will be handled by Makoto Takahashi. Although the editor-in-chief once made suggestions and asked the editorial staff to persuade the cartoonists in charge, they were all rejected by Makoto Takahashi. Four-eyed fox, how are your preparations over there? Makoto Takahashi complained to someone on the other side of the phone. How much more time will it take? You know it's all because of your procrastination. My plan has been delayed again and again. According to my previous estimate, it should have started within this month. Mr. Takahashi Makoto, the time it takes to make an animation. Someone who was called the Four-Eyed Fox was also a little unhappy, not just because of the simple title issue, but more importantly because of the other person's treatment. He was somewhat dissatisfied with the urging, according to your request, the finished animation has been completed, but the voice actors for dubbing, it will take about a month. A month, Makoto Takahashi pondered for a moment. If it's just a month, there should be no problem. By the way, what happened to the voice actors you mentioned before? Sure enough, some guys are restless. No problem, after that I will let Sabas-chan take full responsibility for this matter and ask him to come and have a friendly discussion with those guys. Miho, the previous voiceover candidate for the heroine, although she has clearly refused to participate in the dubbing. Although I knew that Makoto Takahashi would be very unhappy when he said this, but after all, as a long-term partner, there are some things that cannot be done hidden, especially since there is a butler behind Makoto Takahashi who has an over-the-top intelligence-gathering ability. But the company she belongs to is stubbornly insisting on letting her participate. And in several of your previous animations, the heroine's voice actor candidate Miho Azu's name also appeared, although it can be dismissed as unqualified once or twice. Over time, it may affect the future of that voice actor, so you just watch it once, right? Brush it off, Makoto Takahashi ordered the Four-Eyed Fox without hesitation. Although I enjoy the pleasure of torturing people, but I am quite disgusted with destroying other people's dreams and trampling on other people's efforts. I don't care about the deals between your big companies, and I don't want to know about the relationship between you. However, as long as it is within the scope of my control, it is absolutely impossible for the voice actress sister named Miho Azu to become the heroine of my animation. Well, since you insist on asking like this, the other party's tone sounded a little reluctant. After a moment of silence, he asked curiously, "Can I ask, has this voice actor offended you before, Mr. Takahashi Makoto? Everything you are doing now is completely suppressing a newcomer who has just debuted." Suppression? Humph, you four-eyed fox, you seem to have said something strange. When we encounter beautiful things, we must all be respectful. For those who work tirelessly for their dreams, this love can shake the will of the whole world. Create infinite miracles. Makoto Takahashi squinted and stared at an outdoor cafe not far away, with a smile on his face. The request is very simple, as long as the CEO's sister is not allowed to dub the heroine, forget it. Please give me the contact information of the company where the voice actress sister belongs, and I will make it clear to them. The person called the Four-Eyed Fox by Makoto Takahashi is Chen Ben from the old animation company Ogasa. Although I don't know the true meaning of some of Makoto Takahashi's strange words, for a long-term partner, there is still a high degree of trust. Although I don't know the relationship between Makoto Takahashi and Azumi, and I don't know why Makoto Takahashi would make such a willful request, but Chenben can vaguely feel that Makoto Takahashi is quite concerned about the voice actor Azumi. Oh, by the way, Four-Eyed Fox. Although I have considered persuading Makoto Takahashi to change the name several times, facing the brutal ability of Shuyuni Mouth Cannon, Chenben has no ability to resist, so for Makoto Takahashi's name, Chenben has acquiesced and gotten used to it. I'll send it to you later, which should delay the time for a month, right? What do you mean? Although they were just talking on the phone and couldn't see Takahashi Makoto's face, Chenben still heard a hint of expectation from Takahashi Makoto's tone, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. Don't tell me it's a new animation script, Mr. Takahashi Makoto. Of course not. The official content of the Monster Era has been completed, according to the standards of animation. After the official content is completed, there should be an ed or something, right? Just treat it as that thing. Can you let me think about it? Sure. After you finish reading, you can even reject my proposal. But once you choose this branch, I will bring Sebastian and the magic sword Broken Star to your house to talk to you about life at night. Do you still need to consider this? Seeing the call end on the phone, Chenben was at a loss whether to laugh or cry. I don't want to talk about such a heavy topic as life with weird monsters like you in the middle of the night. After ending the call with Chenben, Takahashi Makoto came to the location reserved by Sebastian and found that only Little Otter and Yoshida came. The remaining staff on the cartoonist side seemed to have not arrived yet. But looking at Yoshida's unnatural expression, it seemed that he knew something. My beloved cat, the commander should have told your editors about the specific situation, right? Seeing Yoshida's body tremble, Takahashi Makoto showed a happy smile on his face. How about it? Do you think it's very interesting? A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao SD Mao. Chapter 278. He did not deliberately humiliate Yoshida or provide special education to the little sea otter. Since he sat down, Takahashi Makoto, who was wearing a white coat, took out a pile of white paper and wrote on it, with a fanatical smile on his face. From time to time, shuddering laughter erupted from his mouth, and the scene was so beautiful that Yoshida and the little sea otter dared not look directly at it. Hey Chen, what are you doing? At first, Yoshida thought that Takahashi Makoto was drawing a storyboard for a comic, but after risking his life to stretch his neck to peek, he found the white paper in Takahashi Makoto's hand, written it's full of a lot of confusing formulas. Well, I am studying the travel of parallel worlds and the derivation of formulas for constructing teleportation, and Makoto Takahashi did not stop the flying pen in his hand, and continued to immerse himself in calculations, and a lot of things suddenly popped up in his mouth, making Yoshida completely unable to understand the vocabulary. In fact, teleportation is very simple. After constructing the coordinates of the dimension, move from the dimension we are in to the higher dimension, and then jump back in space. Hey, Makoto Takahashi, you are just a cartoonist. When did you become a scientist? Even if you are a scientist, conducting research on teleportation is a bit exaggerated, right? He complained to Makoto Takahashi with a look of helplessness. Afterwards, Yoshida turned to look at the little sea otter for support, only to find that the little sea otter was looking at Makoto Takahashi with admiration on his face. I said, Hiramaru-kun, are you time travel? Teleport? The little sea otter showed a look of complete incomprehension on his face, but he said words that made Yoshida want to slap him, as expected of the god of the Phoenix Academy. Haha. Actually, the purpose of studying these black technology materials is to complete the task issued by a certain science geek. Maybe it's because the people on the cartoonist side haven't been gathered yet, Or maybe it's because studying these advanced fields consumes brain power. Takahashi Makoto stopped. He picked up the paintbrush in his hand and explained to Yoshida with a serious face, "My familiar cat, in fact, there were 2 comics candidates for serialization before. But after the science geek visited, he learned about the relevant knowledge in one of the comics. Put forward a lot of academic and scientific research opinions, which made me realize some of its shortcomings, so in order to convince the weird professor, I need to submit a reasonable scientific data to the comic before it starts to be serialized." So, is this why you study this? Yoshida covered his face with his hands and really wanted to kick Takahashi Makoto to death. "Now," I said, "Chang, you are just a cartoonist. As long as the content of the cartoon is interesting. In order for a scientist who can only do research to understand the cartoon, you actually spent time studying some unscientific things. Think about it, I'm so drunk. No matter the content of the comic or the character setting of the comic, instead of spending time trying to convince an outsider from reality, it's better to have a good communication with me, the editor in charge. In that case, do you know how far away the railgun is? Do you know the ability to teleport? Do you know the power of atomic collapse? Do you know?" Takahashi Makoto asked in a rapid-fire manner, although he knew it as soon as he heard it. The content of the comics involves a lot of scientific knowledge, but as a professional editor, Yoshida is speechless. Regarding Yoshida, who had no idea what he was asking, Makoto Takahashi mocked with disdain, "Hey, my beloved cat, don't you need to communicate? How can you continue to communicate happily if you can't even understand the most basic settings? What? So, the wisdom of mortals. I'm so sorry for my mortal wisdom," Yoshida complained dissatisfiedly. "By the way, the new comic you are talking about won't be a boring science question and answer comic, right? Let me tell you first, if it is a boring comic, but it will be rejected at the serialization meeting. Science Q/U0026A? Humph. My beloved cat, are you mocking the 3,000 questions and answers of a certain cat and a certain mouse? I can't pretend that I didn't hear this. Although I also want to complain about that animal becoming a spirit. It's a comic book, but as a puzzle animation, it's still very good. At least it's much better than the future sheep, monsters, bears and monsters." Makoto Takahashi put down the comic manuscript, covered half of his face with his left hand, and entered Mangaka 2. Personality education model, and comics can be accepted by more people. This is an important self-cultivation as a cartoonist. As the editor-in-chief, you have not considered this aspect. I am really disappointed. Ah. Well, although I think your jumping thinking has stopped me from complaining, but... Yoshida looked at Makoto Takahashi doubtfully, and the expression on his face became serious, even though he is a shady editor. But at least it also possesses the so-called soul of responsible editor. Although Yoshida has confirmed that Takahashi Makoto has now entered the true second personality education mode, when it comes to comics, it is still necessary to listen carefully. What exactly do you want to say, Cheng? My familiar cat, does the cartoonist just complete the cartoon manuscript? No, I don't think so. Take the previous cartoon as an example, because it involves some scientific content, which will make the cartoon less readable. Improvement, but in this way, problems arise. Makoto Takahashi kept typing the manga manuscript, staring at Yoshida seriously. As for the character settings in the manga, and the development of the manga content, laymen really do. Unable to evaluate, however, for some extremely scientific content, due to its professional level, some people on the reader side will subconsciously consider this issue. However, once doubts arise about the settings in the comics, they will have doubts. The exclusionary nature of comics. In this way, those people will start to criticize and ridicule comics, and the original meaning of reading comics will be lost. It sounds very reasonable, And Yoshida can't refute it at all, although he thinks Takahashi Makoto's narration is a bit strange. Using current science to explain unscientific comic content in a serious manner is really something that ordinary people can't do. By the way, Makoto Takahashi, are you really okay with this? I beg you to explain the previously serialized monster comics in a scientific way. Whether comics or novels, they are just for entertainment. Takahashi Cheng looked at the sky from a distance, with helpless melancholy on his face. However, some people don't understand this truth and lose the meaning of entertainment, which makes when you feel uncomfortable, you also make others uncomfortable. Oh, why do humans hurt each other? They are indeed a lowly species. I knew it would be like this. From comics to the badness of human nature, this is a method commonly used by Takahashi Makoto. Although Yoshida is already familiar with it, he still feels helpless from the bottom of his heart. Takahashi Makoto, you are indeed this is the kind of person, if you don't complain about the bad nature of humanity, you will die from the stars. My beloved cats, although I issued the summoning order today, it seems that those guys are not too active. Makoto Takahashi looked around doubtfully, with a tangled look on his face. The agreed time has already been, it's here, but those guys haven't shown up yet. Sure enough, at this time, we still have to. He looked at Chen Takahashi in confusion. After looking down at his watch, Yoshida turned his head and did not dare to tell Makoto Takahashi that when he summoned the cartoonists, he specifically asked the editor-in-chief to push the time. Half an hour later. Who should we start with first? Makoto Takahashi showed a strange smile on his face, and pulled out a black notebook from his white coat. While the corners of Yoshida's mouth kept twitching, he opened the homepage and prepared to start writing comics. The name of the family. Cheng, why are you here so early? Just when Takahashi Makoto was about to write his name, the cartoonist appeared. The speaker was naturally the man with yellow hair and glasses. Didn't Mr. Yoshida say? Ahem, Cheng, now that we are here, can we start? Yoshida tried to divert Takahashi Makoto's attention while winking at everyone. As for the content of the new comics, it is up to you. Still. Before that, there is one more thing that needs to be dealt with. Makoto Takahashi quickly wrote someone's name on a black notebook, and then looked at the people beside the cartoonist expectantly. Now, let me tell you, have you forgotten something? Just a friendly reminder, the contract before the end of the monster era. Except for the new wife AG, the cartoonists exclaimed one after another. You called us here today, could it be because of the travel contract? Humph. You have indeed forgotten, but unfortunately, like the Lord Knight, as the Demon King, I attach great importance to contracts, Makoto Takahashi said with an expression of sure enough. Then as punishment, it's written in the contract, I will accept your body and soul without mercy. I don't know whether it was because Takahashi Makoto wrote his name in the notebook, or because he was shocked by Takahashi Makoto's speech, but Yoshida suddenly felt a numb pain in his heart. Because the exam is approaching, the latest update is a bit weak. I hope you will understand, I forgot to say meow before. I am very sorry to say, meow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao Do Sde Mao. Chapter 279. The manga artist's side lost when the yokai age ended. According to the content of the previous contract, he will become Takahashi Makoto's slave or something, working for a certain middle-class manga artist for free. However, Takahashi Makoto changed the conditions and does not have to fulfill his previous obligations. The content of the contract, but the price to be paid, is that everyone will become a character in Takahashi Makoto's new manga. This is basically the situation. Seeing the cartoonist's side and everyone staring at him with strange expressions, Takahashi Makoto did not explain too much, but looked at everyone expectantly. So, what other questions are there? For the sake of my good mood today. Oh. As expected of the Phoenix Academy teacher, you have a very interesting idea, only Eiji Niizuma could say this. After cheering for a while, Eiji Niizuma looked at Makoto Takahashi expectantly, then you can ask, who will I be in Mr. Phoenix's comics, and how will I appear? Makoto Takahashi probably won't say it. Hearing Eiji Shinzuma's sudden question, everyone on the manga artist side looked at each other. Although they are relatively familiar with each other, their relationship is pronounced as partner and written as enemy. Revealing the content of a manga that has not yet been serialized, even if Takahashi Makoto had no common sense, he would not do such a thing, right? Although everyone on the manga artist's side also wants to know the identity of the character named after them in the manga, however, they are not able to ask directly like Eiji Niizuma without any scruples, because they are influenced by the sanctimonious hypocrisy of human beings. Of inhibition. Looking at the weird smile on Takahashi Cheng's face, Landai couldn't help but feel something was wrong in his heart. Ever since Takahashi Makoto started talking, Landai had vaguely felt that the way Takahashi Makoto looked at him was a bit strange. Especially now, the ominous premonition has become even stronger. The content of the comic can be said. You probably know the specific content anyway, but, hey. Landai's hunch was right. Whenever the comic is mentioned, Takahashi Makoto will always stare at it. Looking at him, of course the King of Black Flame is the King of Black Flame, there is no change. But it is a pity that although he is a very important character in the comic, he is not the protagonist of the comic this time. It's really a pity to say that, Eiji, who was in high spirits just now, immediately fell on the table like a frustrated rubber ball, pouted dissatisfied, and kept complaining like a coquettish child, I don't want to be an important role, but I want to be a super handsome protagonist. Hey, Cheng, what is the main content of your comics? Landai, who was stared at by Takahashi Cheng, turned to look at the curious colleagues around him, with a trace of worry on his face. You are not required to tell us the content. If possible, can you tell us what the theme of the new comic is? I don't want to appear in your comic in a strange way. Tisk, I'm sorry to ask directly, so you choose to make insinuations. In response to Landai's question, Takahashi Makoto spread his hands helplessly and said with an indifferent expression, actually, there is no need to do this. What is the style of comics? I can tell you what the plot is. But according to the principle of equal exchange, once you hear the content, you must agree to my previous conditions. Hey. It seems that you, Cheng, are quite confident about this comic, the silver-haired boy Fukuda spat dissatisfied, grinning arrogantly. Since you are so confident, I will agree to it. Conditions. Anyway, I lost the previous duel, so you can use it if you like the name or the character. Do you agree? After seeing everyone on the cartoonist side nodding in agreement, Makoto Takahashi nodded with satisfaction. In that case, let me tell you the general plot first. Ahem, friendship. Just a reminder, please don't get mad after hearing this. Although it is said to be a friendly reminder, all the cartoonists present can see that the person Makoto Takahashi refers to is undoubtedly Landai, so there is no need for that friendly reminder at all. Okay. There are no unscientific settings such as monsters' superpowers, and there are no violent and bloody battle scenes. It is just a comic based on real life, a story about a boy working hard for love. I heard Makoto Takahashi say this. Landai's heartbeat accelerated, and he experienced an ominous premonition. Actually, Miss Kang Shuhong, you have serialized a comic before, that is the Green Leaf season. My new comic is similar to your comic, but it is slightly different from the Green Leaf season in terms of emphasis. It's not about describing the relationship between the male and female protagonists, but the history of the sexual struggle between two men. Oh, the season of the Green Leaves by the eldest lady. The silver-haired boy Fukuda showed a thoughtful look on his face. He had also read the comic before, and it was him who helped Miss Kang Shuhong with some of the exciting but not illegal drawing techniques. Done together. However, the silver-haired guy only knew the content of the comic, but he had no idea about the original source of the comic story. Wait. Don't say it yet. Among the cartoonists, the one who had the biggest reaction was probably Lan Dai, right? Sure enough, as Takahashi Makoto said before, he has already started to explode. I'm talking about Aiken. Do you want to take me? You do. Oh. It seems that your skill Great Prophecy has been activated, Lan Dai-kun. You already knew it before I even said it. Takahashi Makoto narrowed his eyes and smiled like a fox. He turned his head and looked at the yellow-haired glasses man who had a look of realization on his face. But unfortunately, it seems that your good friend has already seen through everything, Lan Dai-kun. Your practice is not enough. Hey, what's going on? Ah Chang, you haven't finished talking yet. Why does Yachin Mu Menjai already know it? The silver-haired boy Fusion was a little dissatisfied, and the other people on the cartoonist side also showed puzzled expressions. The content of the comic is. Takahashi Makoto, who was about to tell everyone the content of the comic, was suddenly covered by Lan Dai's mouth, and was dragged into a corner by Lan Dai with a speed and strength that violated common sense. The yellow-haired glasses man showed a trace of helplessness on his face. After smiling at everyone, he didn't explain too much. Under the strong opposition of Lan Dai, Takahashi Makoto finally did not tell the content of the comic. However, Lan Dai, who had just breathed a sigh of relief, saw Takahashi Makoto take out a thick stack of comics from his backpack, and his expression immediately became very exciting. Stare. After reading the comics, everyone on the cartoonist side smiled and cast their eyes on Lan Dai, whose face was flushed. As for the person involved, Lan Dai has successfully evolved into an ostrich, and has buried his head in his arms, thinking that he can escape everyone's eyes. So when that dream comes true, please marry me. Ha, Cheng Zhenjun, you are really amazing. The silver-haired boy Fusion slapped Lan Dai's shoulder fiercely, repeating the lines in the comics, and boasting generously, I originally thought that this was made up by Cheng, but I didn't expect that such a thing actually happened. Men should be like this. Akito. For the betrayal of his good friend at the critical moment, Lan Dai responded with a resentful look, and complained to his partner who was laughing, don't laugh so happily. If Cheng really treats us as the protagonists, what happens next? What do you think will happen if Xianjai knows? I remember when I went to visit you with Cheng, I seemed to see a man named the scene of Shura Field. The laughter of the yellow-haired glasses man stopped abruptly, and he looked at Takahashi Makoto with horror, and said in a flattering tone, Ah Cheng, Master Takahashi Makoto, Phoenix Court is really a god. For the following content, can you only keep the most important part, and delete the content related to me? Oh. It seems that you have a thorough understanding of the principle of I would rather die than my friend die, but it seems a little late. After seeing the car parked in front of the cafe, Takahashi Makoto showed a devilish smile on his face, snapped his fingers, and stood up to introduce to the people on the side of the cartoonist slowly, then let me introduce to you the most important female characters in that comic, the voice actor sister of a certain blue-sleeved family and the violent girl of a certain yellow-haired family. Yeah, you do, because of the gathering of many emotions such as shyness and surprise, the blue-sleeved classmate who failed to fully master super fusion fell into a sluggish mode. Ahahaha, Xianjai, you are here too, a certain yellow-haired man with glasses, who had to sleep outside after kneeling on the washboard at night, looked at his wife with a cautious and flattering face. The secret of crossing from the second dimension to the third dimension, arcane. Dimension crossing, Takahashi Makoto bowed to the cartoonist like an actor taking a bow in a stage play, this is the so-called miracle technique. Ha 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 ha. Is this the victory of love? Nazuma Eiji made a heart shape with his hands, and his eyes wandered between a shy couple for a moment before turning back to Takahashi Makoto. Good job, Mr. Fengguangai Yuan. I look forward to your new comic being serialized soon. Everyone retreat. Remember to draw it more handsome for me, Chen. The silver-haired boy Fukuda gave a thumbs up to Takahashi Makoto, and before he finished speaking, he was dragged away by Nazuma Eiji. Excuse me. After a short silence, Iwase Aiko, the mermaid, looked at another couple showing off their affection, and the smile that was just on her face froze instantly. After saying hello to Takahashi Makoto and others, she left alone. Lord Fengguanjin, please, this is my lifelong request. After quietly saying some prayers to Takahashi Makoto, the little otter immediately chased after Miss Aoki Hong. As for Yoshida, who would care about this single editor who has no friends and no wife? I sympathize with Yoshida-kun. You should have guessed what comics will be next. A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao Do Sde Mao. Chapter 280. All members of the cartoonist side disappeared, leaving behind two pairs of lovers exchanging feelings. Although I really want to say this, it's a pity that the ability of a certain person in a white coat to attract passers-by is really unbelievable. There is not much problem with a certain married couple, it's just a certain CEO's sister and a certain cartoonist. This couple unmarried people are too shy and have not yet developed the powerful skill of ignoring passers-by and showing affection without restraint, so now let alone communicating feelings, couples cannot even look at each other normally. When I, the Phoenix Academy Fierce Master, appear, I will activate the shadow trampling feature, and all members will not be able to force themselves out of the combat state. Makoto Takahashi, who had already attracted enough hatred, still did not forget to continue to increase his presence, and forcibly broke the inherent bond between a shy couple. Now that the key personnel are in place, let's start the battle again. Before it's over, don't imagine that you can go home tonight bang 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 or aha. Who would think that? Ajumu and his family members roared and complained in unison, entering the Crusader mode, attracting more attention than Takahashi Saichuji's previous actions. This is the power of combined combat skills. The first person to launch the attack was the violent woman who was the wife of a certain Huang Mao. Ahem, please don't expect a big war to begin, because of the existence of a certain Huang Mao, the violent woman's strength was limited. Although Lan Dai tried his best to prevent his CEO's sister from reading a certain comic, it was a pity that the opponent he faced this time was the evil Phoenix Academy Demon King. Coupled with the betrayal of his good friend, Lan Dai, the dumb classmate could only sit aside with a blushing face and looked at Makoto Takahashi in confusion. Stupid Lan Dai, do you feel that you are weak? Do you feel that you are useless? Standing on the chair, Takahashi Makoto looked down at the confused Lan Dai classmate, with a sarcastic smile on his face. It's just this level of trial cannot be completed. How will you face the counter-attack of evil in this world in the future? If you want to be a partner of justice, you need to be aware of the sins of the entire world. I'm sorry, I'm just a cartoonist. I don't want to be a righteous partner. I could faintly hear the laughter of the violent woman over there teasing my voice actress sister. At this moment, Lan Dai's classmate evolved from shy complete body to angry ultimate body, staring at Makoto Takahashi, seemingly wanting to activate the demonic eye of direct death to find the line of division and destruction by Makoto Takahashi. I just want to ask you, didn't you invite everyone to discuss comics today, Chen? Why did Yadujiang and the others come? And the content of that comic? Tisk, tisk, are you asking questions like a string of questions? The smile on Takahashi Makoto's face gradually dissipated, and he looked at the pair of good friends Ajumu with a serious face. Just now, because of the presence of organized spies, many things happened it cannot be made public. Because once the organization knows about my plan, there will only be one end for you. Is it another middle school type of persecution paranoia? After the two of them looked at each other, Yachin Mumenjai decisively chose to get up and prepare to stay away from Takahashi Makoto's poison. Many daily practical experiences told them that in order to prevent the spiritual world from being polluted, the best choice should be to maintain a relationship with them. Makoto Takahashi's distance. Oh? Do you want to leave? That's such a pity. After all, the birth of this comic has extraordinary significance. It seems to be related to the relationship between a certain cartoonist and a certain CEO's sister Senori. Although Takahashi Makoto has not finished speaking, Landai's departure has stopped. Looking at the two people, Ajumu who looked puzzled, Takahashi Makoto showed a devilish smile on his face. Such a stupid mortal, do you want to continue listening now? Come on, let's have a good chat. Let's talk about the future of the current offline world called Yachin Mumenjai. Kaya-chan, don't laugh anymore. The CEO's sister over there, who had completed the task of reading the manga manuscript, shyly avoided the teasing of her best friend, but inadvertently saw the girl named Ajumuman. The two members of the A group looked at Makoto Takahashi in astonishment, and couldn't help but become curious. Huh? What's wrong with Makoto-kun and the others? It's probably because I was fooled by that guy Takahashi Makoto again. The violent woman had quite a lot of resentment towards a certain middle-class manga artist. After glancing at the three people who were talking about things over there, she turned around and smiled. The best friend continued to tease, Adu-chan, don't worry about those guys. What stage of progress have you and Genli-kun reached? Do you have regular dates? Have you kissed yet? So, a woman's tendency to gossip should not be underestimated. As for why the faces of Ajumu and the two people turned out like this, in fact, it was just Takahashi Makoto who told them some of the contents of the comic Dream Eater in advance, such as the voice actor's sister and Landai's classmate in the comic. When the agreement was about to be completed, the relationship between the two was exposed, which caused all kinds of negative effects. Moreover, someone with bad intentions did not tell the happy ending of the comic, but deliberately only told half of it. Although Takahashi Makoto has emphasized many times that this is just the content of the comic Dream Eater and has nothing to do with reality, but recalling the incident caused by a certain cartoonist and a certain big star, someone who has learned from the past, although he looked a little nervous, Landai was a little calm at the moment. Is this really just a cartoon? Is there a sense of immediacy that these things will definitely happen in the future? Takahashi Makoto, have you mastered the true great prophecy technique? What? If this situation really happens, please ask Landai, who was just angry. Don't look at me with a sad face. How will you solve it? Takahashi-chen narrowed his right eye and looked at the stunned Landai, and kindly offered his own suggestions. According to my experience, there are two choices at this time, but no matter how I look at it, I think Landai will choose the tragic route. Hey, Supreme, you really need to pay attention to what Cheng said. For the future. Pushing his glasses, the yellow-haired glasses man showed with a solemn look. He patted his best friend's shoulder. So that's it? Ah Cheng, you drew this comic not to prank us, but to help Landai. Humph, don't be too happy too soon. I just think that Landai classmate has no awareness of bearing the evil of this world, so as a master with similar experience, I plan to replace Landai and become a righteous partner. Tisk. After all, it's all because Landai classmate is not aware enough. Speaking of the tone of your speech, Takahashi Makoto, a textbook tsundere, or a middle school tsundere. Aware, after all, Landai is just a cartoonist, not like a crazy middle school cartoonist, so, stupid mortal, continue to be confused. Should I say, congratulations, Blue Dye, you have evolved into Blue Dye Shao. Takahashi Makoto looked like he couldn't stand it, and turned to the yellow-haired man with glasses who looked tangled and said, as the great demon king Feng Guangai Yuan Xiongzhen who can change the world line, I just revealed to you in advance the direction of development of the current world line, and such a small matter, do you need to make you two good friends who have a history of gay struggle so entangled? Small matter. Blue Dye fell into a frenzy of astonishment at Takahashi Makoto's nonchalant attitude. So, the wisdom of mortals. In this world, the most important thing is love and healing. You who have mastered the ability of love and healing, as long as you keep believing, believe me, you will finally be able to evoke a miracle one day. Takahashi Makoto looked calm, looked at the voice actor's sister who was worried, turned to Yachin Mumenjai and said seriously, "What's more, in the current world line, because of the existence of this comic, it has reduced a lot of resistance for you, humph. So, Lan Dai Xiao classmate, what should be said now has been said, as for the rest, when will you commit seppuku to apologize to me?" But why do I feel that Ah Cheng didn't think so much when he drew this comic, just to satisfy your bad taste? The yellow-haired man with glasses was possessed by a certain death god elementary school student. Although he was puzzled, he spoke the truth. "And, Cheng, are you sure that just relying on a comic book can change the things you said before? It's indeed a bit difficult." Contrary to his previous fanatical middle school state, Takahashi Cheng's face became a little gloomy, and he inexplicably changed the subject. "Do you know why the final chapter of the Monster Era ended in such a tragic way? In fact, there are reasons for all this. Could it be?" After anticipating a certain reason, the yellow-haired glasses man's face became a little ugly, and the look he gave to Takahashi Cheng became strange. "Cheng, you are taking revenge." "Humph. Since the witch announced her withdrawal from the dark world, those bored bastards who refuse to give up have never stopped. Even though Sebastian has high-end combat power, he still forced me to replace the new barrier and even delayed the contract ceremony with the witch." After Takahashi Cheng revealed a hidden black history, the already uneasy Lan Dai classmate became even more depressed. "Humph. If it weren't for Sebastian's stopping, and because of the witch Rena, I think the legend of Night Killer or Street Knife Testing Maniac would have spread in this world during this period of time. Hey, 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 no matter how angry you are, you can't do that, right? But this still can't calm my anger. Since I can't kill and retaliate against the people of the whole world, then I'll change the method." Takahashi Makoto, who was immersed in his own world, didn't notice the strong resentment in himself at all, causing Yachin Mumenjai to move back quietly and uneasily, still talking to himself. "Humph. If you can't give physical injuries, then torture those bastards mentally. The end of the monster era is just the beginning. In the next social era, I will make the people of the whole world feel regretful, live in despair, and let the sadness flow back. Change. This is the price of offending the great devil Feng Guangai Yuan Xiongzhen." Ha 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 ha. The devilish middle school laughter, not to mention Yachin Mumenjai beside Takahashi Makoto, even the people in the entire cafe felt a chill. "Thank you all for your monthly tickets. I am very sorry, because of various reasons, the update is slow and interrupted, and a certain cat feels deeply uneasy. Also remind me again that a certain cat needs to read books and prepare for exams during this period, so after typing every day, I may not have time to read book reviews and reply to the book review area. I am very sorry to say. Thank you all for your continued support. Meow.